So Swami says, he has this poem in Telugu which I would want to recite. Sadgunambulu kaligi sariyaina nadatunna swargamela idiye swargamularu. Means, when people have good character and are on the correct path, why worry about heaven? This is the heaven. This August hall in Swami's presence is reverberating with enthusiasm. Like the rose waiting to be offered to Swami, the buds of lotus waiting to blossom for their master, and all of us. For we are seeking to listen, learn, and assimilate so that we can keep our master happy in doing so. The next topic is Shravanam, Mananam, and Nidhidhyasanam. And the speaker for this is Brother Prem Anosh. Our speaker today hails from a family of Sai devotees. Brother joined Brindavan University for pursuing his BSc in chemistry in 1999, after which he moved to Prashanti campus to pursue his masters. Having been immensely blessed by Swami, Brother got to join the Radio Sai team in 2011, and as a member of the Sri Satya Sai Media Center content team, Brother regularly conducts several satsangs, live talks on various topics imbibed in Swami's teachings. Please join in welcoming this ardent instrument of Bhagavan for the occasion, Brother Prem Anosh.
I offer my most loving pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. I pray to Swami that he gives us all the understanding. It is Swami who speaks. It is Swami who listens to each one of us. Sisters and brothers, Sairam to all of you. Thank you for this opportunity to be here with each one of you. And I have been given the second most challenging session to handle. Right? The most challenging is after lunch. The second most challenging is just before lunch. And I'm going to make it a little more difficult by talking about food and eating. We'll come to that. And what makes it even more challenging is to follow Sister Sindhuja, so eloquent and so insightful in her exposition. She also happens to be my batchmate of BSc Chemistry who won the gold medal. So I'm going to follow her. So you can understand my predicament. Talking about food and lunch, there's a very interesting thing that this human body is capable of doing. And I would like to talk about that. But before that, if I were to ask you for an honest answer, how many of you really felt the past couple of days has been heavy? Any of you felt that too many inputs, too much to gather, too much to digest? Anyone? Yeah, thought for food, not about the lunch and breakfast. So you all didn't find it heavy, you feel it was good? So that's an indication for the organizers. Next time you can pack it more. They seem to be capable of taking in more. But invariably, whenever you go through a session like this, either a 1 hour talk or a 3-day workshop or a summer course, you always feel like I've taken in so much, I don't know how much has become a part of me. Right? Or when you're in a gathering like this, you're really inspired. A couple of weeks later, it already becomes like distant memory, and you really don't know how much of it has been internalized. And if you were to ask this question to Swami, that Swami, how do we make what we study, what we listen, what we go through in spirituality to become a part of me? Swami would give these three words as the solution: Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhidhyasanam. So that is going to be my topic, and I'm going to talk of it initially with an analogy that Swami himself would give. As I was saying, when you talk about food and consuming food, that's a very interesting thing that happens, a very interesting mechanism. Imagine you have something like an apple in front of you, right? An apple grows on a tree, and if you are a botanist, you will know that there's a different family, nomenclature-wise, it's a different family, a genus, and all those kind of things. And when we tell that we are human, we come to a different kind of a class altogether, Homo sapiens, blah, blah, blah. So two completely different entities, but when I eat that apple becomes human, isn't it? There is a process that happens because of which that apple or that fruit, or even whatever may be the food that you're eating, gets converted into human tissue, which means it becomes human. So by ingesting it and then masticating it and then putting it through this process of the digestive system, a part of it gets consumed and becomes human tissue. If I were to give you a chocolate, right, a chocolate which is wrapped, let's say a Lindt or a Ferrero Rocher or something, what would you do? You unwrap it, right? Just because, like, when Swami used to give us chocolates, just because it is Swami who's giving the chocolates, we cannot eat the wrapper, right? We can't say that, oh, Swami has given this, so I have to eat this whole thing. No, we will eat only the chocolate. We have preserved the wrapper, that's a different thing. Because Swami has touched it, we still have chocolate wrappers which are from 20-25 years ago. But even if Swami himself gives, there is something that we unwrap and keep aside, something that we eat. Similarly, even when we eat food, there is something that is unwrapped and is discarded away from the body. That's the process of excretion. But something which is the essence of that food becomes part of my body. And in fact, if you were to look at it from a very spiritual angle, Swami says food has three components: the gross component, the subtle component, and extremely subtle component. The gross component is excreted, which is like the wrapper, which it comes in, you unwrap it and throw it away. The subtle component becomes nutrients which nourish the body, and the extremely subtle become your thoughts. That's about the physical food. So if this entity which is in front of me, which is in the form of an apple or a dosa or a whatever you had right now, I think, right? Milk, badam milk. If that has to become a part of me, I should first ingest it and then put it through this process of breaking down and digestion, and it should become a part of me. In the same way, everything that we listen to, everything that we read also goes through a very similar process, or it has to go through a similar process so that it has to become a part of you. Imagine you could have the best cook. The food is prepared with the best ingredients. It's extremely tasty. It is sitting right in front of me. Is it of any use to me? No, only when I eat it, it is of use to me, isn't it? Only when I'm going to consume it, it is going to be useful to me. This process, which Swami refers to as Shravanam, Mananam and Nidhidhyasanam, Swami says, is similar to eating, digesting and making it a part of you. And when I say digesting, it is this whole process of me masticating it well and me putting it through this esophagus to the stomach and then the breaking down with the various enzymes and all of that. So when you listen to a session, a lot of spiritual material, or you read Swami's Vahini, a lot of inspiration, you read it, after some time you feel that it has not become a part of me. Or it was very inspiring when I heard it from the speaker, but a few days later it kind of weaned away. It's because we have not done this process of Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhidhyasanam diligently, consciously. Swami tells a very beautiful Chinnakatha. There is this boy who is traveling from his hometown to a nearby village fair. Right? This is in the olden days when you did not have restaurants on the way and you did not have these very fancy roadside highway dabas and all of that. So in those days, when you used to travel from one town to the other, you had to pack your food and carry it. Right? And typically what would they do? They would probably take a cloth and stack rotis in it, and they will put another pot with the sabji. So the mother packs lunch for him and gives it to the boy. And the boy is walking. So Swami says, after some time, it's already midday, now he is very tired. If you're carrying some luggage, if you're carrying some bag, what happens when you start getting tired? It starts feeling heavier, isn't it? It has not become heavier, but it starts feeling like it is more heavier than it was initially. So this boy is already tired and this luggage that he is carrying is becoming heavier for him. Then Swami says, what should he do now? Nothing. He just has to find a quiet place, sit under a shade of a tree, open this parcel that he is carrying, eat the food, rest for a while, and then when he starts his journey or resumes his journey, the burden is not there and now he is more energized. So Swami says the same thing. This is what you are supposed to do with my message. If you are reading and reading and reading, listening and listening and gathering all of these things only to carry in your memory, it is only going to start getting heavier and heavier. As Swami would typically in his style say, indigestion. Mental indigestion, Swami will say. So that is why this process of Shravanam, Mananam and Nidhidhyasanam is very important. We will see what are the few practical tips that Swami has given. But the first stage is Shravanam. If you were to eat out, if you have to go and eat in a restaurant, what is the first thing that you do? It's a new restaurant, you don't know about it, you've never had there before. What is the first thing you do? Sorry? No, you've not yet gone to the restaurant. You're deciding whether you'll go or not. Check if anybody is there inside the restaurant, that's it, right? Yes, anything else? check the reviews, right? Modern style of doing that is go and check the reviews. Imagine the food that we eat. Yeah, anything more? Hygiene levels, right? Hygiene levels is something that you do. And typically when you say check the reviews, what do we mean by that? You are verifying someone's experience, right? Someone has gone there, eaten, how's the taste? Did you feel fine the next day? Or did it cause any trouble, right? We are checking the experience of the person who has gone and eaten in that place. If so much concern is shown for something that is eaten, and invariably, I mean, our body is so fantastic that if it is not suitable, it is all discarded out, right? The process of vomiting or loose motions are all means by which this body discards. No, this is not suitable for my body. In spite of that, if we are going and eating somewhere, we check, is this a safe place to eat? What has been the experience of people who have eaten here? Is it hygienic? As Swami would say, Pak Shuddhi, Padartha Shuddhi and Paka Shuddhi. Are the materials being used pure? The person who is cooking, is he pure or is he clean? And the process of cooking, is it fine? And one step further, if it's a restaurant, the person who is serving also, right? And everything that goes with that, table and the plate and the cutlery and all of that. For something as simple and small as what we eat, which is going to stay in this system only for 24 hours or even lesser, we are taking so much care. Something that is going to enter our consciousness through this process of Shravanam or reading, how much more careful we should be. Right? See, right now, if you really look at it, we are all here, we all have a lot of things which are common, right? Most of us perhaps are devotees of Swami. Most of us have a certain inclination to spirituality, a certain inclination to seva, which means we feel that life is not merely for earning and making merry. So there are certain similarities, but at the same time, we are different people. Right? We are completely different people. What makes us different? Apart from the physical appearance, what makes us different? Our thoughts, choices, preferences, anything else? Character and behavior? Lifestyle? Anything else? Ideologies. So in a way, whatever answer was said is all related. See, when we say ideologies are different, it means that each one of us has a different view of life. We have a certain unique philosophy of life. Some people, I've met a lot of people who have been devotees of Swami for many, many years, heard Swami's discourses, but they will say that we don't believe in karma. Right? It's just their viewpoint. We don't believe in karma because it doesn't make sense to me. Or some people will say, I don't know what is mukti and moksha. I don't know what is it not to be born again. Or each one of us have different ways in which we deal with situations, isn't it? We have a difficult person in our workplace, or you have a certain problem. Where does the way we deal with that problem come from? It's because we have a certain philosophy to life. We have a certain ideology or view to life. And each one of us have a different way we look at life and deal with life. When we open up to Shravanam, when we open up to letting somebody else's philosophy enter into my mind. I am saying I am ready to modify my philosophy with this new input. So how much more careful we should be when we are listening to somebody, especially in this modern age of social media influencers, right? And advertising and endorsements by celebrities. When we were in school, there used to be a very famous sportsperson who used to come for a motorcycle advertisement. Right? Almost every third advertisement would be this sportsman driving that motorcycle. But hardcore fans of that sportsperson like us knew that he doesn't know how to ride a motorcycle. He never learned to ride a bicycle, he never knows how to learn a motorcycle. And imagine, he is endorsing a certain bike. And subconsciously we are taking in that messaging and saying, oh, this is a good bike to buy. And what did we say? We look at reviews, we look at user experience. But here is a person who has no experience of driving that bike, who's selling that bike to me. You will have all these film stars endorsing soft drink products. But if you go and speak to their fitness trainers, they will tell you that they never take any of those soft drinks. Right? There was this, if I'm not wrong, it was Pulela Gopichand, who was in his peak of his career and he turned down some soft drink endorsements. And he had a very simple logic. He said, why will anybody see an advertisement where I am featured? It's because of what I have achieved as a sportsperson. And I have achieved something as a sportsperson avoiding these products. Then how can I go in front of children and say that drink these things? So in spite of it being a very, very lucrative deal, he refused it, saying that no, this is against my morals. But how many such people are there around? So imagine we are opening our mind and consciousness to all kinds of people. If they are presentable, if they speak good language, if they're able to tell it with a lot of fun and a lot of jokes, we will listen to it. Or they will be successful in some other field and we will listen to them in something else. Like that sports person. He was a brilliant sports person, but he didn't know how to drive a bike. So when we are talking about our philosophy of life, shouldn't we be careful whom we let into our minds and modify our thought? So if we are to listen to somebody, Swami gives 3 markers. Look for these 3 things in the people. Right? This is a discourse that Swami gave a long time ago. And Swami says, and this is, imagine, this is like much before you have all these advertisements and endorsements and all that. And then Swami was telling in this discourse, the modern world is such that you give people money, they will tell you anything. They will give you any advice. Will you go around listening to every advice like that? Swami said you should take the advice of people who have these 3 qualities. Swami said they should have Chitta Shuddhi. They should be people with a pure mind. The second point Swami said is they should be people who are selfless. By you using that advice or not using that advice, that person is not going to gain anything at all. The benefit of that advice is purely for you. Instantly, all these people who take money for giving you and me advice are out of the picture. Isn't it? Niswartham, Swami says. The person who is Niswartha does not have selfishness or self-interest. And the third thing Swami says is, the person must be a spiritual person. The word that Swami uses is very interesting. Swami says, Adhyatma Chittudu. Right? The moment you say spiritual, we immediately might get put off and cut down. Oh no, I'm not ready for that still. But the word is very, very deep and profound in its meaning. Adhyatma. Right? Adhyatma. What does Adhyatma mean? Can any of you take a shot? Yeah? Sorry? Ancient. No. Yes. Talking about the soul. Sorry? Knowing. Talking about the knowing. Not exactly. Similar, somewhere close. Self-enquiry. It's close. One who knows the Atma, that is right, but is not descriptive enough, I would say. Adhyatma. What does Adhyatma mean?
Soul consciousness.
Soul consciousness. Yes, pretty close. Okay, when we say soul or Atma, what comes to your mind? Immediately it will be like something very, very philosophical, right? Something that never dies, something that is divine, right? In fact, in our hostel, anybody is becoming too spiritual will be instantly nicknamed Atma. And say, this boy is Atma. But if you look at the language, right, it's a very simple meaning. Adhyatma means going to the inside of the matter. Right? Everything, there is something which is external, there is something which is the internal basis. That's what Adhyatma actually means. For every topic or every concept, there is an inner foundation and an inner purpose. Something as simple as, okay, we all are going through education, we all are studying, we are getting a degree and joining for a job and making money. This is a process. This is an external process. But why are we doing this? Why should I study? Why should I take up a job? Why should I feed this body? Why should I keep this body alive? We are only talking about keeping this body healthy and beautiful and giving it all the comforts. But why should I keep this body alive? There should be a purpose to it. Right? So everything that we do, be it earning money, be it the simple act of sleeping at night or eating, there is a purpose behind it. A person with a adhyatmic bent of mind is someone who goes beyond the ephemeral, who looks at things more deeply than just the external. Right? So when Swami says, listen to the advice of a spiritual person, even the English word is quite self-explanatory, isn't it? Being spiritual is going to the spirit of the matter. Right? You're not going to be just in the external. I want to go to the essence of it. So someone who is able to give me advice based on the inner purpose of things. So very, very practical 3 beautiful tips Swami gives, isn't it? Is the person of a pure intellect, just like how I'm looking at the person who is eaten at that restaurant and I'm seeing if that person is healthy, right? Or if I want to sign up to a gym, I will have to look at someone who has got some results from that gym, isn't it? So I will look at someone to whom that process has resulted in some form of positive outcome. So if I have to listen to somebody, is there purity of mind? And the second thing is selflessness. There is nothing that person gains, and Even as I'm saying this, I can imagine any number of times hearing this from Swami. So many times when he is upset with the students, when he is happy with the students, when he is advising, Swami would remind us, I have nothing to gain out of this. I am telling for your good, I have nothing to gain out of this. Because he is the embodiment of perfection and completeness. There is nothing that I can add to him. That when I became a student and some people would ask, how do you know Swami is God? I'll say, I don't know. How will I know Swami is God? And I used to think, if you ask me what is this, I will tell you it's a microphone. And how do I know it's a microphone? Because I've seen a microphone before. Now if you point out to a person and ask me, is he God? How will I know? I have not seen God before. Have I seen God before to look at Swami and say, yes, he is God? To certify that? I don't know. And interestingly, Vedanta throws in another twist. It says, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. If at all you happen to know God, you will become God. So there is no way you can show Swami and say he is God. At best you can say, he is my God. He is God for me. So I used to think, okay, what if people come and ask, what if Swami is not God? Okay, what if 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, you figure out that Swami is not God? I used to think, okay, what would happen? 15 years, I would have transformed my life. I would have become a better person. I would be living a more disciplined life. Right? Whether he is God or not, the benefit is for me. And on the contrary, I would tell those people, what if Swami is God? What will you lose out? Did you ever think of that? Right? If he is not God, what I lose probably is only 10-15 years. And in that also I don't lose anything, because whatever he has told me is only for my benefit. Whatever he has given me is only to transform me. But what if he is God, which he is, and you have missed out? That terror, I think, kept us near Swami. What if I missed out? The father of all FOMOs, isn't it? So when we are opening our mind to be infected, literally, by somebody else's philosophy, these are the three things we should look for. If those people do not come with these credentials, you can close your eyes and let the words enter like this and go out like this. Right? It is very, very important to follow this in this modern day and age. Because we are letting everybody else to influence our mind. It is so important to let Swami influence our mind. So when we are talking about Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhidhyasanam, Swami says this first step of Shravanam is this whole process of cooking and serving food. Swami is saying that all the discourses that I have given, all the Vahinis that I have written, it is all that I have over these many, many years cooked and served in front of you. Right? Without eating, there is only one form or a limited form of pleasure that you can get. What is that? Smelling. You can take in the aroma. In the modern world, you can take a photo and post it on Instagram. Right? It's an added advantage that you have. But that is not the purpose of cooking, isn't it? The purpose of cooking is not the aroma. The purpose of cooking is not the presentation. The purpose of cooking is not even in the taste. Taste is important. but the purpose is in the nutrition that gets added to your body. Imagine the advances that we have made. I think of it so many times and it overwhelms me. Everybody just look at your mobile phone for a moment. You go to satyasaispeaks.org, sssbpt.info. All the thousands of discourses that Swami has given is there. All the 15 Vahinis are there. Go to some site, all of Bhagavad Gita is there. All of Upanishads are there. Which means today we are living in such a way that the entire wisdom of mankind is in my pocket. Imagine that. I mean, just take a moment to imagine that thought. In the past, you used to have these universities like Nalanda and these great universities. People used to come from as far as Vietnam to come and stay in those universities and study. That entire university is in your pocket. Can you imagine that? All wisdom of all mankind is with you right now, in your pocket or in your handbag. But is it of any use to me? Can I call myself learned? Can I call myself wise? So Swami says, I have done my part. I have cooked the best meal with the best ingredients, following all the norms of cooking, and I have served it in front of you. What are you going to do about it now? Are you going to consume it or not? When Swami was talking to a devotee, and Swami was literally lamenting, so to say. Swami was talking to this lady devotee, and Swami said, see, what do? I am here for everyone. I am here to give. But if people are not ready to take, what do? And Swami gave this example, and Swami said, one businessman came to me, a devotee who is a businessman who has a huge empire and all that. He was looking very worried and stressed. And Swami asked him, what happened? What is your problem? He said, Swami, so many problems in business, problems in life and family life and all that. And Swami patiently heard him. Swami said, oh, it's that. Okay, Swami said, I will give you some tips. I'll give you some solutions. And Swami told him a few things to do. Early in the morning, do this. Before you sleep, you do this and do that. And Swami gave him some instructions. That person was very happy. He said, okay, Swami, okay. Then he goes away. Then Swami tells he comes back after 3 months with the same stress on his face. Right? No improvement. He is looking same stressful and worried. Then Swami asked him, what happened? Have you tried out what I told you to do? Have you done what I've asked you to do? This man was a little quiet. Because Swami said, because if you had done what I told you to do, you will not look like this. You will not come back to me feeling stressed. And what do you think that businessman would have told? What do you think that businessman would have told in his defense? No time, Swami. He said, Swami, there is no time. I did not have the time to do all of this. And Swami asked him, oh, you didn't have time. Did you any day miss your breakfast because you didn't have time? He said, no, Swami. Did you skip your lunch or dinner because you didn't have time? He said, no, Swami. Swami said, Pony, breakfast, lunch, dinner, okay. Did you miss at least the tea and coffee in between? He said, no, Swami. Then Swami said, see, you have problems, but if you don't have time for the solution, you don't have the right to complain. All of us have problems. And when we have problems, what do we say? We get upset with Swami. Right? That's the final thing. Swami, why should I go through all of this? But Swami is saying, you have the problem. I am giving you the solution. But if you say, I don't have time for the solution, then we don't have any right to complain, isn't it? So the first thing that we all have to do is, if you ask me, even the process of reading or making time and sitting in an audience like this and listening is still part of the Shravanam process only. Is still part of you picking up the food and putting in your mouth. Still nourishment is not guaranteed. What needs to be done is to take it to the next stage of Mananam or contemplation. What is this contemplation? I'll give you a very interesting example. I'm sure most of us will be familiar with this. When we were in school, when the teacher is taking a class, 30, 40 students in the class, suddenly the teacher gets called away to the principal's office. Right? So she's going to leave this classroom of 30 students and go. What will she do? She'll pick up one of the students, monitor. And what will she tell the student? There is a very interesting adjective that she uses. I don't know if they use it, but in my time they used to use it. Yes? No, she used to say, do this. I am going away for 10 minutes, do this. Mind the class. Right? That's the word they used to use, right? Mind the class. But see an interesting thing that she is doing. The boy or girl she is asking to mind the class is not from outside the class. That fellow is also capable of being a nuisance. Right? That fellow or that girl is also capable of being noisy and mischievous. But the teacher picks up one student from the same class and says, mind the class. Swami says, in the same way, within our mind, there should be one entity or one portion of the mind which should be given this duty of minding the mind. So whatever I read, whatever I listen, Swami says, goes to this aspect of the mind that we call as the buddhi. And this buddhi has this simple task of constantly reminding the rest of the mind, which is capable of creating all the trouble, what is it that needs to be done. And this process is the mananam that needs to be done. This empowered part of the mind should now become the internal advisor. See, when you are sitting in a setup like this, somebody from outside is telling you what to do. The next stage is somebody from inside should remind you and tell you what to do. And that person is this buddhi. And this minding the mind is what is important. And what are we empowering this leader in the mind with? With whatever we are reading, whatever we are listening from, those three criterion that we had. People with a pure mind, who are selfless and who are spiritual in nature. So when I read the Upanishads, when I read Swami's literature, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, when I read any literature which is empowering, enriching, without my knowledge, I am actually enriching this buddhi. And when do we need advice? We need advice when things are going wrong. Right? We need advice when we are not able to think on our own. So this mananam will actually be done through the experiences of life, through the ups and downs of life. Oh, somewhere I heard that this is the best thing to do when you're going through this problem. So what do? You say, let me try it out. Let me try out this solution. So just like we say Shravanam, Mananam and Nidhidhyasanam, Swami says there are three other words which happen, which it's mentioned in many Upanishads, but in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna says, which have the same meaning and the same functional role, which is Jnatum, Drashtum, Praveshtum. Jnatum is the Shravanam aspect, Drashtum is the Mananam aspect, and Praveshtum is Nidhidhyasanam. So Drashtum, it literally means let me see. Right? What is intellectual knowledge should become experiential knowledge. So let me try it out and see. And this process, Swami says, is what you know, when you look at a book, Swami would, in his beautiful play of words, what is in the pustaka should become part of my mastaka. Right? Otherwise, it remains in my phone. All the wisdom of all the worlds are there in my phone. I carry it around being a fool. So the first thing is, from that pustaka it should come to my mastaka, but even in the mastaka it is going to be only heavy. For very, very, very few people it is useful to have more knowledge than they practice. People like me, who have this role of coming and speaking. Right? So even for us it is very dangerous if it does not reflect as much into experience and practice. But if you're given that role, perhaps it is okay. But for most of us, it is very important to convert whatever is taken into this mind into experience. And that is why Swami said, if you say that I have problems and I don't have time for the solution, it is nothing less than stupidity, isn't it? So every life experience that we go through becomes an opportunity for us to do this mananam. And now if you look at it, this is what every master has been telling us. What was Swami's first bhajan? Manasa bhajare Guru Charanam. So now if I am singing that bhajan, Manasa bhajare Guru Charanam, what am I doing? I am actually giving an instruction to my mind, isn't it? I am telling myself, I am talking to my mind. I am saying, Manasa bhajare, oh mind, think of the Lord. Spend your time being in the proximity of the Lord. There is that beautiful episode that happens in the life of Tyagaraja, right? The king of Tanjore. He sends him lot of gold and fine silk and all of those things. He hears about Tyagaraja and he is so moved. He wants Saint Tyagaraja to come and perform in his royal court. So he sends all of these things to Tyagaraja's house, and says the king is inviting you. So that time Swami says he sings a beautiful song. What is that song? Nidhi chala sukama, Ramuni sannidhi chala sukama. Right? He says, is this worldly wealth going to give me joy? Or is it the sannidhi of the Lord which is going to give me joy? And how does he end that line? He says, Nijamuga paluku manasa. He's asking his own mind. Because he believes that his mind is capable of making the right decision. So he is asking his own mind, is this worldly wealth going to give me happiness and comfort? Or is contemplating on the feet of my Lord Rama going to give me comfort? Oh mind, you tell me. I am not going to force you. I am not going to influence you. You tell me what is better. And the mind that has been, as I said, quotes unquote, quote unquote, infected with the right message, will give the right advice. So this process of Mananam is nothing but becoming more and more conscious in everyday life. when you take advice from somebody who comes with an adhyatma chitta, we are saying that every problem in life, every situation in life, I want to start thinking more deeply. I want to start taking more conscious decisions. Does that mean that all our decisions are going to become 100% correct? No. And not necessarily also. Because sometimes to make mistakes are very, very important. Some elderly devotee one day told me that, when you're living in Swami's presence, sometimes we would do the biggest of blunders sitting right in front of Swami. Right? We are seeing Swami every day, morning and evening darshan, but we will make the biggest blunders in our life and Swami will not correct us. Because there is nothing which will teach you a better lesson by failing yourself. And this devotee once told me there are two advantages in this. One is you will learn from your mistakes. And the second thing is your mistakes will make you humble. And if you are humble, you will learn. The day we cease to be humble, we will think that we don't need to learn. As one very, I don't know who it is, but a famous marketing guru once said, I don't want to be a learned person. I want to be a learner. Because if I'm learned, I've stopped learning. I want to be a learner. And to be a learner, you need humility. And so Swami will make us make those mistakes. And with mistakes, we will learn. Why? Because sometimes not all that we take in is necessary for us. Sometimes what we hear comes with a wrapper that needs to be unwrapped and put aside. So this is a whole process that we have to do with commitment. I have heard Swami's message and I wish to engage with Swami's message. I want Swami's message to seep into every aspect of my life. I want to color every experience and every decision and choice of my life with Swami's message and words. And when we start doing this, then Swami says, automatically you come to that final state of Nidhidhyasanam, where the message becomes you. You are the message. I find this very similar to three statements that Jesus makes. Right? In the Bible there are these 5 statements, there are very similar ones. Imagine the first thing he says is, I am the good shepherd. So if he's a good shepherd, what does he mean? He is in front of you, he is leading you, and you follow him. The next statement he says is, I am the bread of life, consume me. Right? Such a weird thing to say. Jesus is saying, I am the bread of life, consume me. Means you have to eat the message. You have to chew the message. In a beautiful discourse, Swami says, when he's talking about Bhagavatam, Swami says, Bhagavatam vinandi, Bhagavatam tinandi. Right? Which means eat Bhagavatam, means listen to Bhagavatam, eat Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam vinandi, Bhagavatam tinandi, Swami says. So Jesus says, I am the bread of life, consume me. And the third thing he says is, I am the way, nobody reaches the master other than through me. The moment we listen to that, I mean, there are many ways of misinterpreting that. Right? He is the only savior, he is the only way. But what Jesus is saying is, see, Jesus, if you look at him, we often speak of him as the messenger. Right? He came with a message, he came with a philosophy to modify my philosophy. But he is the best form of the messenger. Because through his life, the message that he brought became his life. The difference between the message and the messenger vanished. If you want to reach the final goal, you have to reach it only through a similar process. Only when the message becomes a part of you, you will be able to reach that ultimate goal. So when Jesus says, I am the way and nobody reaches my master other than through me, nobody reaches that ultimate goal without going through the process of whatever message that you have learned becoming a part of you. And that happens through Mananam, and it will come to a point where it becomes Nidhidhyasanam. Today, if I am doing some work, suppose suddenly they say, okay, lift all the chairs and put it that side. Do we stop and say, okay, morning I had this for breakfast, let me use this energy for this, moving this chair? We don't think like that. Or we say that, oh, 2 days back I ate that. That is more nourishing. So let me use that for this more hard work. No, we don't. The nourishment becoming useful for your everyday activity becomes spontaneous. It has become part of the system. The system dispenses what you need. So that stage of Nidhidhyasanam is when there is a problem, when there is an issue, or when there is a choice that needs to be made, and you will spontaneously make the choice that Swami would have wanted you to make. Right? And that will be happening, and I'm sure that is already happening in so many of your aspects of your life. But it should come to a point where this becomes our very own nature, where there is no difference between me and Swami's message. Right? So, how much ever we listen, how much ever we hear, what is important is it should become part of me. It should become the driving force of my life. And for that, this process is important, and that is why, if you know that this is the process, what happens? Every challenge in life becomes something that you look forward to, isn't it? Let's say I am trying to overcome fear, and I go on reading something about Swami where you can overcome fear. A fearful situation becomes an opportunity for me to practice what I have learned. I am trying to focus. A distracting situation becomes a place for me to practice the processes that Swami has taught me to concentrate. Or when I am in stress, I should remember Swami. A stressful situation becomes an opportunity for me to practice. Right? That is when you will look forward to life and say, and Swami says, life is a game, play it. Oh, life will become so interesting, isn't it? So these are the thoughts I wanted to share with all of you. Thank you for your very, very patient listening. If you have any questions, and if you have time, I don't mind taking them. Saram. Yes. The only question is what's for lunch? There are no questions, we'll conclude then. Okay, thank you. I most humbly offer this at Swami's feet, and I wish all of us the very best in this journey of life, where, as Swami says, the same Lord who came and took the reins of Arjuna's chariot has come to take the reins of each one of our lives. There cannot be a greater fortune than that, isn't it? When Swami started this monthly magazine, Swami wanted to name it something, and Swami called Professor Kasturi, and Swami said, I'm starting this, what name shall we keep for it? And Professor Kasturi knew that Swami would have already come up with a name, so he said, Swami, whatever you say. I said, no, Swami, you tell me. Swami said, no, you tell, what do you think? So he came with all kinds of names, Jnana Deepika, Adhyatma Deepika and all that. Swami said, no. And Swami, out of all his humility, I have thought of a name, tell me how it is. And Swami said, Sanatana Sarati. And Professor Kasturi thought, can there be a better name than this? He is the eternal charioteer. Right? When Krishna was given the opportunity to pick any role, he says, I will be the charioteer. There's a very important, I'll just conclude with that, very important reason why Swami says he is the charioteer of life. See, in the Kathopanishad there is this beautiful analogy of the chariot. I don't know how many of you have gone through that. It's there in Swami Samoko's discourses too, where Swami says, this body is the chariot, the horses are the senses, the reins with which the horses are controlled is the mind or manas, the charioteer is the buddhi, right? And the person who is traveling in the chariot is the jivatma. So when Krishna says, I will become your charioteer, which means we are saying, Swami, become my buddhi. That every time when I said I am going to mind my mind, I am making a commitment of ananya bhakti to Swami. Right? What is bhakti? Bhakti is, I commit myself to you. Ananya bhakti is, I commit myself to you alone. As we go through life, we are going to hear all kinds of people come and tell all kinds of things in their fanciful words and fanciful presentation. But we are committing to Swami. Swami, you alone are my charioteer. Right? That is Ananya Bhakti. He said, Swami, I commit myself to you and you alone, which means my buddhi is not going to take inputs from 10 sources and then decide which is the right thing to do. My buddhi is going to take only from one source, and that is you. And that is very, very important because, as I told you, Jnatum, Drashtum, Praveshtum. The way this occurs in the Bhagavad Gita is very interesting. Krishna has just given the vision of Vishwarupa to Arjuna. Okay, Vishwarupa darshan has been given, and then he assumes his usual form. And then Krishna says, this vision that you have got is not got through tapas. It is not got through any kind of spiritual practice. It is not given to the devas. It is not given to the Gandharvas and yajnas and all of those. You cannot do any yajna and get this. And then he says, but through ananya bhakti, jnatum drashtum praveshtum. You will know about this form, you will envision this form, and you will become one with this form. Why is that important? See, what is the Vishwarupa Darshan? Many of you might have heard this. I don't know, I might have narrated it the last time too. One of the students of Swami was once traveling with Swami in the car. Right? And Swami was talking to him, and suddenly Swami looks at him and Swami says, Kya mangta hai? What do you want? So this boy was a bit flustered. He said, Swami, nothing, I'm with you, I'm next to you, nothing more to ask for. Swami said, no, bolo, kya mangta hai? Do you want to have the darshan of Rama, Krishna, Vishnu? You want to have the darshan of some Devi? So Swami is telling him, I'll give you a special darshan. Kya mangta hai? So this is a trick question. Right? Because if you tell somebody else's name, Swami will say, oh, so you love that deity more than me. Right? Or if you don't say, you're disobeying Swami. So this boy was wondering what to do. So then he thought, he came up with a smart plan. So he said, Swami, Vishwarupa Darshan, Swami. He said, Vishwarupam. Because in one you can see everything. Swami, as I said, was traveling in the car. It seems he lowered the window and Swami said, Rose dikhta hai. Swami just pointed out to the public all around and Swami said, Rose dikhta hai. You see it every day, but you don't realize it. Right? So when Krishna gives Arjuna the Vishwarupa Darshan, it means the experience that God is everything and everywhere. That is the ultimate Adhyatmic experience. Right? That is what we all are striving for, that knowledge. That experience of knowing that everything is God and nothing other than God is the Vishwarupa Darshan. And Krishna says, you cannot get this by reading books, you cannot get this by yajnas, you cannot get this by any other process. It can be attained only through Ananya Bhakti. By making him the charioteer of our life. And saying, Swami, you alone are the Sarathi. I am going to make every decision with your words of advice. Right? Whatever we understand at that point in time, none of us know completely what Swami will tell in each situation. Right? None of us know, and none of us will probably ever come to know. But that sincerity of stopping and thinking, Swami, what will you want me to do in this situation? I want to do as per your liking. And I want to take only your advice. That Ananya Bhakti, Swami says, will take you through this whole process of Jnatum, Drashtum, Praveshtum, of Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhidhyasanam. So with that prayer that each one of us makes Swami that Sanatana Sarathi, and Swami takes us to that experience of seeing him everywhere, because we have seen the joy of seeing him in one place. We all have experienced the joy of those random moments when we have experienced Swami. We want to experience him in every moment of our life. With that prayer, let's offer this at Swami's lotus feet. Salam.
Thank you, Brother Prem. I had started the session and introduced it as listen, learn and assimilate. After the session, I correct myself. It is Gyatum, Drishtum and Pravishtum. I pray that all of us are able to listen to Swami's teachings, contemplate on them as Brother explained, and may our life at one point becomes his message, and everything we do reflects on the same lines. Thank you so much for the insightful session, Brother Prem. I would like to request you to kindly accept a token of our love from our behalf. And can I please request Brother Ratnakar to bestow it? Thank you. Sai Ram.